is the need to present the other side, engage the other side, which is something for us to remember. Now, our next speaker is Anthony Russell, and he's a writer, art historian, social commentator, and artist. He is the author of Evolving the Spirit from Democracy to Peace, which was praised by the Burmese opposition leader Aung San Suu Kyi as saying that it meant a great deal to her. His paintings were displayed at an art exhibition held at the Gulton Gallery in Stallbridge, Dorset in 2010. So I pass you on to Mr. Russell. Thank you.
Thank you. Gosh, I've had the opportunity to, of great proximity to some wonderful speakers all day long. This is an august gathering, and I feel honoured to be part of it. I am a great admirer of Uniting for Peace, and Vijay Mehta is an inspiration to me. I am deeply grateful, not just for his long-term commitment to peace and his understanding of non-violence, but also for the generosity that has given me this opportunity to speak to you today. So thank you for that. Can you all hear me clearly? Yes. What I want to do today, this is the very first opportunity to introduce a completely new concept. It's new and incredibly old. And it's going to take a more personal, almost spiritual approach, you could say. But it also has global ambitions and is something which I believe, we believe, has got everything to do with the appropriate approach we should now have towards Syria. With the help of Friends for Peace, an organisation of like-minded peace organisations, what I want to do today is to invite you to endorse quite a challenging concept, but a very simple one. The secret of life, well, possibly what I'm about to relate could well be that, so please bear with me. The spirit of unconditional love is like a golden thread that runs through all the great religions and the wise through history. And it amounts to a very simple truth. And that truth is that love, real love, not ambition or greed, real genuine love, if you like, unconditional love, total love, is a force that comes from beyond us. Now, we may not be able to describe that all in the same way. Different cultures, different religions have different ways. But we should be united in an understanding that this love could be described as being somewhat like the sun. And it may well be related to the sun, in that it is unconditional. It comes from above and it shines on all of us alike. And that is a very, very important factor. Once you realize that as the groundwork of understanding of peace, then, as it says in the Bible, it sets you free. And it gives you the foundations of what real peace is. The problem is that in the world, like everything else, this real love, this genuine love, is treated like a commodity, very unhelpfully. But that is the one thing love is not. How could it possibly be a commodity? You know it's not a commodity, because the more you give, the more you have to give, and the richer you become. To give you an idea of why this is so powerful, maybe as powerful as the sun, is that if you understand that the only love that really matters is the love that is unconditional, then you realize that there's no point judging anybody. We judge situations, of course, we have to judge situations, but there's no point being judgmental. Now, the political point of this, if you like, is that what we do within a country is to decide that we have a basic as possible set of laws, and we set them aside so that an independent body, a judiciary, does that judging for us. If we can get to that situation internationally, as I think we've heard described today, that's where this personal concept has its international, its political ramifications. But just think of it. If you are no longer judging people, then the whole idea of violence becomes quite pointless. Condemnation becomes pointless. In fact, even anger, while of course at times extremely understandable, becomes in the long run pointless. Ask the Buddhists. Okay, so you'll say to me, whoa, that's idealistic. In the world politic, that real politic, that makes no sense. But I would say to you, has it never in the world been more necessary to find that one point, if you like, that one spirit on which we can all agree? The trouble here is we live in a world that's in denial. It's in denial that we all actually come from nature. And nature knows no retribution. There's no retribution in nature. We're in denial that humanity is actually becoming more civil, more humane. That's a scientific fact. If you take the long-term view and the increased amount of population, we are actually becoming more civil. There's no doubt about that. We're in denial as a culture of denial, if you like, because we do not recognize that understanding, cooperation, and compromise, yes, remember compromise, are always preferable to reciprocal violence, which always leads to war. We're in denial because we don't recognize that we are born understanding what true love is. But as time goes on, we are corrupted by influences and fail to see role models which give us what real maturity is. The problem is this creates confusion in the mind. So we now live in a state of confusion. It's a sort of schizophrenia, because we know what we've heard as a child, but we constantly hear contradictions in actions. And that does create a crisis. So why has this crisis occurred? And this is where the logic of Uniting for Peace really helps in understanding this. Because we now have, and this helps to explain things, what you could describe as a perfect storm. Bear with me. This perfect storm is, on one hand, the mythologies of war, the mythologies that are built up in 70 years since the end of war. And if you think about it, the incredible cost of the war, in human cost, economic cost, must somehow be justified. So the propaganda of the war has turned into massive crystallized mythologies. You have to justify that war. And those mythologies have been mixed, if you like, with the high winds, you could say, of a financial imperative. 70 years of financial imperatives. And that has created this state now where we all live in this denial, live in the mythologies of the belief of the vitalness of violence in our everyday life. And the proof of this is that, with present company excluded, almost every form of communication, from the media, from our media, to the propaganda of advertising, from Hollywood to the propaganda of our nation states, is hell-bent on persisting with the notion that hate, greed, violence and retribution are necessary evils in this world. That's not the case. And it's very easy to think that these powers are all powerful and there's nothing we can do about it. But I would say to you that the forces that have always made progress in this world are those that are civil forces. If you like, they are what Gene Sharp called the intangible factors. They are the civil organizations. They're not the great state bodies, because we know they can't be trusted. They're after power and power alone. The small civil organizations, the ground root levels, are the ones that make the difference. So in a sense, if we here today could recognize this very simple spirit of unconditional love as being the groundwork, this very simple idea, yes, we recognize and celebrate the differences. the different cultures, the different religions, different nations. But then we just recognize that one tiny point at which we all come together. The notion of unconditional love, if you like, you could call it total love. If we were able just to do that, then would we not have the very best personal grounding within each of us to go forward? But would that not then translate in everything we did and everything we understood on the international level, and particularly in our understanding of how we should best deal with Syria from a civil level, from a personal level, so that we weren't always saying, and I've heard people make this point, that we should be deciding how we should behave with Syria. Syria's done this wrong, that wrong. No, we understand that there are international laws. So we apply internationally what we have nationally, a basic framework of law that we adhere to and understand. The more basic it is, the better. And then we refer that to the international judiciary and accept that and mind our own business internationally in every other affair. That surely is the way forward. If this makes any sense to you, because this really is the very first time this idea has been aired, and some of us who believe this are in the room today, if you believe this, then do feel free to join us, totallove.org, and maybe this could be the beginning of something very special. I want to thank you very much for your time.